On the Star Wars. Turmoil on Naboo. The Trade Federation is using a blockade. The Jedi Order is sent in to negotiate the peace, but are caught up in a plot against the Republic. After some lengthy nonsense, they meet little Anakin Skywalker, boy destined to bring balance to the Force. After the nefarious Darth Maul murders Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan will now train this boy. Now that he's all grown up, will Anakin learn the ways of the Force? Who created the clone army? Is this movie better than the first one? Find out on Swholli Star Wars Special, Episode 2!
Ah, shit. Star Wars 2? I didn't think I'd actually do this. I thought it'd be like Twilight and I'd just sort of forget about doing part 2. But oh well, here we are. So, is Episode 2 any worse off than Episode 1? I mean, no. On a technical level, this film works a little bit better than the first one did. I mean, we have more competent actors, and by that I mean we only have adult actors to work with here. No more shitty little kid as a main character. But we're still working with the same situations as we had in the first film. A lot of the same major flaws are carried over. You know, the dialogue is still clunky, the pacing is still slow, and the mythos that is Star Wars is sorely lacking. So let's just get right into this heap of a mess that is the Star Wars prequels and continue our journey into Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Number 1, the plot. Episode 2 starts with a bang! Or at least, it starts with some boring establishing shots and exposition about the following bang, and then finally we get to the bang! Admittedly, it didn't take as long to get to the bang as last time. Padme has been made a senator of Naboo now, instead of its queen, and she's on her way to the Republic Senate to vote on something important. The bang at the beginning was an assassin attempting to kill Senator Amidala before she can make her vote against the creation of a Republic army, which makes no sense, because if the Trade Federation wanted to win the war, it'd certainly help if they were facing an opponent that had no real organized army. You know, why would someone want to kill her? You know, unless, of course, that someone maybe, wanted to become the senator. Also, maybe, a little thanks, Padme, would be nice.
Seeing you alive brings warm feelings to my heart.
Do you have any idea who's behind this attack?
Yoda's, he's putting his heart out on the line here, and you're just shooting him down. Also, hey.
I think that Count Dooku was behind it.
He is a political idealist, not a murderer.
You know, milady, Count Dooku was once a Jedi. He couldn't assassinate anyone.
Isn't it known lore in your universe that the Sith were usually just, fallen Jedi? Shouldn't he be totally capable of murder? Or wait, you aren't aware that Dooku's a Sith yet. Or actually, for that matter, neither are we the audience. In fact, we don't even know who Dooku is at this point. He wasn't in the films, previous to this, and you're just now mentioning him? I mean, how the hell do we know that Dooku's not capable of murder? Just because you said so? What if the reason he's a former Jedi is because he murdered someone? This is all so stupid. So in the event of the attempted assassination, Palpatine decides she should be under Jedi protection until they're able to figure out and stop whoever's trying to kill her. They suggest Obi-Wan Kenobi be the one to do it. Of course, we as the audience are aware that this is an excuse for Anakin and Padme to see each other again, as they're supposed to fall in love. After the assassin tries to strike again, Obi-Wan learns that whoever it was hired to kill her is located on a planet called Kamino. There, it's discovered that there was a secret army of cloned soldiers waiting for the Republic to activate and use. See, this is where things start getting convoluted. Okay, so if Padme was meant to submit a vote against the creation of an army, and, that's the reason she had an assassination attempt, then why is it that the bounty hunter they used, or rather, I should say that the bounty hunter who hired another bounty hunter, because that makes sense, why is it that the bounty hunter they used was the one who ended up being the one they cloned in order to make the army? If their goal was to stop the opposition, of a creation of an army, then did that mean that they wanted the clones to be discovered? Did Jango Fett leave an easily traceable dart in the bounty hunter he killed in front of Obi-Wan on purpose so Obi-Wan would track him down? But then, if that was the case, then why did they delete the records of the planet in the Jedi archives? It really is a testament of the illogical structures of your movies when I had to watch this whole thing with Wikipedia opened on another screen just to understand what was going on. So, Obi-Wan finds out that there are clones. Meanwhile, Anakin has been protecting Padme on Naboo, and surely enough, they hit it off and are basically lovers at this point. Anakin, however, has been having really bad dreams about his mother and her fate, and feeling that they aren't just nightmares and are actually premonitions through the Force, he decides to leave Naboo in search of his mother back on Tatooine. While there, he finds she's been taken by Tusken Raiders, so he proceeds to invade and attack their camp and search for her. However, she dies in his arms from the injuries she sustained while held captive. Filled with a lust for vengeance, Anakin slaughters the whole camp, including the women and children.
But the women and the children, too.
See, I never really thought Tusken Raiders were kidnappers. I understood they were nomadic and, very territorial, but they never really came across as basically sand Vikings. Plus, since this is one of, Anakin's, first inklings of the dark side, it seems almost happenstance. Was the death of his mother that drove him to murder really a temptation of the dark side? I mean, if it was it orchestrated? What if Anakin hadn't learned about his mother's death until, weeks later? When, he was with Obi-Wan, who would have been able to dissuade him from his feelings of hatred and murder? I mean, Obi-Wan is a stoic and noble teacher. After all, we know later on how, through only a few days of teachings, he's able to bring Luke almost completely up to speed on the whole Jedi thing. It's very possible that Anakin could have been reasoned with. So that means that the whole Tusken Raider thing had to happen, else Anakin wouldn't be on the path that he's on, to the dark side, and if so, who could do that? Okay, anyway, Obi-Wan is caught investigating the source of the clone army, and Anakin travels there to help him out. They get into a battle with Count Dooku, and Anakin loses his hand, and then Yoda fights him, and that looks stupid, and then a bunch of Jedis fight, and then Yoda declares that the Clone Wars have begun.
Begun. The Clone War has.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars.
Anakin and Padme get married, and I guess Palpatine now has an army of the Republic at his command. And that's basically it. That's the end. Pretty much from here you can see just how convoluted the whole goddamn thing was. And again, I remind you there are countless other reviews you can watch to see this stuff talked about in more detail, so I'm just going to give you the brief summary. First, it must be reiterated that this ending is a clusterfuck when it comes to the visual effects. I mean, look at how many lightsabers there are on screen. It's been said, but the lightsaber was always a sort of mystic device, only used when absolutely necessary. But now everyone has one, and they use it en masse. Of course, yeah, lightsabers are cool. Lots of people have made fan videos where they play around with lightsabers. Hell, even I did when I was 10. Look at this shit. You know how I made it? I shot it on a non-digital camera on tape. Then I played the tape in a VCR that I had hooked up to a primitive capture card in my computer, and I recorded the footage. Then I went into the video, and frame by frame, MS painted a lightsaber onto my shot. I still have the lightsabers I used to make that video. But then that's kind of sort of the point. Even a little kid with barely any access to technology can make his own lightsaber video these days. The lightsaber isn't as impressive as it was back in '77. So really, why not try to preserve the magic and make it a sometimes weapon? A weapon that is used in the most dire of situations, a Jedi's last resort when all else fails. If you saturate the lightsaber market like this, then you're gonna devalue its presence. And that's kind of the best metaphor for this movie, and the prequels in general. They were too saturated, too much stuff with little interest happening on screen, and characters that fell flat and uninspired. We were oversaturated with the film itself. It was never smart in the way it chose to divvy out its story and characters, and in that way it was devalued from its own appeal. Number 2. Dissecting Episode 2. Well, it looks like old Georgie's at it again with his film noir tale set in outer space. I mean, this one's even more obvious than Phantom Menace. Just look at it. First, the mystery plot is the entire basis for the structure of the plot. We don't even have the whole political bullshit to blubber up with. Oh, I mean, sure, it's still there, but in Episode 2, it sort of takes a back seat to our space detective mystery. With the assassination attempt, Obi-Wan and Anakin take to the streets in order to track down the bounty hunter and try to interrogate the information out of her. And then later, Obi-Wan has to uncover the mystery of the missing planets in the archives, digging deeper and deeper into that subplot. Eventually, he meets up with this dude Dexter Jetster in and I shit you not, a 50s diner. This thing is supposedly in the middle of Coruscant, a giant sci-fi city, and here we have this jarring as fuck real-world 50s diner with a fat mobster type and his Brooklyn accented waitress robot.
Someone to see you, honey! Jedi by the looks of him. You want a cup of joe with you?
You can't tell me with a straight face that this isn't what George wanted to try to do with his sci-fi movie. It's right there. Now, in the comments, someone brought up to my attention another George Lucas-made crime noir, a little forgotten film called Radioland Murders. Now, I've gone out and I've watched it, and I can now talk about it. This movie came out in 1994, and it has a 19% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes, if that says anything. Okay, the film is based on a story by Lucas, and I can't entirely pinpoint exactly where the screenwriters took liberties with that and where it was exactly Lucas's words, but there's sort of a feel to it that just, it tells you that it's George's story. Roger Ebert said this of the film: maybe actually a quieter production would have been funnier, one in which human qualities could have emerged. And when watching the film, you can feel what he's saying. The characters are actually sort of lovable in their own ways, though they could be stronger, but the plot is too crazy. The slapstick is non-stop and annoying, and the actual crime is so hard to follow it doesn't even feel like it tied it up very well. If the film had had time to slow down, take itself more serious and build up a quieter tension, it would have actually been a pretty great period film. Episode 2 kind of has that, but what it lacks is the energy. Episode 2 is too slow, it's too methodical, and it's far too convoluted in its mystery. If they'd been able to take some of the comedy elements and then the realistic set pieces instead of boring CG, and then combine them with the fantastical elements that Star Wars already had to offer, George could have created his film noir the way he wanted. I mean, it's not actually a stretch from what the original Star Wars basically was. It was an adventure serial turned into the big screen. With a little work on the characters and a little more focus on the pacing and dialogue, the prequels could have been the best fantasy detective series and a great addition to the Star Wars mythos. Instead, it was just this. Number 3, the recap so far. So now that we've wrapped up another prequel stinker, let's go over what we've learned from the movies so far. Obi-Wan Kenobi had a master named Qui-Gon Jinn who was near and dear to him. Just before finishing their mission together, Qui-Gon is killed by a Sith Lord who Obi-Wan then also kills. He is now tortured by that loss. Anakin Skywalker is a small, soon-to-be Jedi with great power and potential to bring balance to the Force. Obi-Wan swore he would mentor the young boy and teach him the ways of the Force. The Trade Federation, who are separatists with their droid army, are secretly being backed by the Sith. It's very heavily implied at the end of the film that the newly elected Chancellor of the Republic, Palpatine, is actually the evil Dark Lord. Years later, Padme was under threat of assassination, so now Obi-Wan and Anakin, who has now grown up, are in charge of her protection. While working, they undercover the assassin and track her down. Obi-Wan, figuring out her employer, goes off to find him. Meanwhile, Anakin continues to protect Padme. While protecting her, he learns the fate of his mother on Tatooine and goes to rescue her. She dies, and through his vengeful anger, he gets his first taste of the dark side. Obi-Wan discovers an army of clone soldiers and brings them back to the Republic, thus starting the Clone Wars. The Sith make themselves known to the Jedi, and Anakin loses his hand in a fight with Count Dooku. Anakin and Padme get married, an act that's forbidden by the Jedi Order, thus needing it to be kept secret and set in motion their eventual emotional downfall. Number 4. The End. So, yeah, another shorter one compared to my usual videos, but like I said last time, these are just me getting the prequels out of the way to make room for the fun topics that are the original trilogy, which hopefully we will have a lot more to talk about then. So, like before, stick around until October to see episode 4 kick off the original trilogy videos and, more interesting stuff all around. In the meantime, this means we now only have 5 more months of waiting for episode 7 to premiere, so get thinking. When the time comes, we're going to be discussing, much like Jurassic World, will episode 7 be good? I'm hoping so, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and as always, get the fuck out of here.